Fantastic. Well, a warm or chilly welcome to everybody to our Escalate Learning Design Special Interest Group webinar. So again, our webinar today is in partnership with our CMP around our research program. We are in our webinar number 3. So earlier on, we did look at an introductory to research for third space, and then we look into identity and professional identities. Now, the third one is on dissemination channels around conferences, forums, symposiums, events, and more. And we have two fabulous speakers today. We have Kashmira Dave and Keith Heggart, who will join us today and who will give an engaging presentation for all of us. Now, before we begin, I would like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land in which we are meeting, and so please feel free to acknowledge that in the chat. And I do pay respects to our elders past and present and emerging, and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people joining us here today. All right, bit of a spiel. So our special interest group, we run obviously mentorship programs, webinars. We have a LinkedIn group profile as well that others can join across the world. And obviously we have our wonderful up and coming Escalate 2025 conference later this year in Adelaide. There is also another program that's run every year, the Springs to Excellence to Research program as well. So I believe that's 2.5 to 3 days, and that's held later in the year. So it's a fantastic program. It's a stepping stone, obviously, from our introductory to third space in research for what we're doing. Now, just to give you just the next two, we have 2 more webinars in our program coming up. And the next one will be held on the 12th of September. Peer-reviewed journals is what we'll be focused on. We have a special guest from Associate Professor Henk, who's one of the associate editors of AGET, who's being there today. So a really interesting presentation to be had. And finally, at the end, we'll be discussing on how to craft our special proposal. All right, fabulous. Now, what we have in store for you today, a different format, different style. We have Keith and Kashmira today. We're going to do a bit of role playing for you, and then there's going to be a bit of activities. So the idea is that we know that the third space professional, we're looking to provide insights into crafting, engaging presentations and various posters, and where do we go about disseminating all of these opportunities. And obviously you will have the opportunity to be taken through the process, and sometimes quite raw and authentic processes around this. So I'm going to get started. I'm going to stop sharing so we can see everybody. All right, give me 1 second. All right. Now, there's going to be a moderator, and obviously we have Keith and Kashmira. So we're going to start today's session with a conversation between 2 higher education professionals. First, we have Keith, who describes himself as a really boring old academic. He's been publishing papers since forever, before the internet existed. And then we have Kashmira, a brilliant third space practitioner whose role lies somewhere between essential and invisible. So let's hear how each of them thinks about doing and sharing research. All right, I'm going to get started on this. Keith, let's start with you. Tell us, how do you approach research dissemination?
Oh, well, thank you for the question, Leanne. It's pretty simple for me. I do the research, I write the paper, I submit it to a peer-reviewed journal, I wait 12 to 18 months, and then voila, there's a glorious PDF appears. Then I work on my next research idea.
And what happens after the paper is published?
Well, naturally, it goes on my CV, it gets added to my profile at my institution, then I can include it in all of my grant applications, my university dashboard. Oh, and sometimes I might tweet about it, if I remember.
All right, thanks, Keith. Kashmira, how about you?
I don't do any of that. So what I mean is I don't get to disseminate in the same way as Keith described. Not because I don't want to, but because I can't. There are so many roadblocks. So let's start at the beginning of like most of the work I do, like supporting curriculum transformation, working with students, evaluating teaching and teaching innovation, isn't recognized as research, first of all, right? And it's seen as like support work. So yeah, it's there is no time to build into or reflect, let alone writing.
Oh, come on. You could just write something up in your own time, couldn't you?
My own time, I mean, like between back-to-back projects, endless meetings, and fixing everyone else's digital problems, like even if I get a second of breath, I don't have access to the same resources as you do, Kit. And no research assistant, no database description, subscriptions, no administrative support. And let's not forget, I don't have a PhD. It's still a shut door for me.
And when you do contribute to research?
Uh, Often what happens is I bought into help, but I'm not listed as author. You know, my ideas, my frameworks, they become someone else's publications. And or worse, I'm only called in after the ethics approval is done. So I can't shape any questions or I can't challenge assumptions. I'm just, implementing what has already been decided by academics.
Gee, that sounds really frustrating, Kashmira.
Yes, it is because I care deeply about learning and teaching, and I'm knee deep in like practice every day. I see what works. I try new things. I evaluate, but it's like um, I'm invisible, and I have the idea, but no runway, sort of.
That
And sometimes I even ask myself, man, who do I tell this to? Like what is happening to me, and who cares about even like what I think? I mean, kid.
that that sounds like research to me, Kashmira.
Thank you, but it's not always like treated that way. Not unless I come with like footnote and a citation count.
That in for a moment. To the audience, what counts as research? Who gets to be seen as a researcher? And what could change if we shifted our assumptions? Because the truth is, we need both Kashmira and Keith. We need rigor, we need relevance, theory and lived experiences, the formal and the informal. So today we're going to explore practical ways third space professionals like Kashmira and others here today can think about how to do research as part of your workflow and how to think about dissemination creatively and claim their space in the research conversation. All right. And who knows, maybe even Keith might learn a thing or two.
Only if it doesn't involve TikTok, Leanne.
All right, fabulous. Look, that's the end of our role play, our context to this. Beautiful, fantastic. I'm just going to pause there and I'm going to throw it over to Kashmir and Keith.
Yeah. Leanne, can you share the slides as well, please?
That was my idea to do a role play, and I wasn't sure how it was going to go. Normally, I'm one of these people who hates role plays, but I thought it would be just a really good idea, a good way to introduce what we're talking about.
So from the role play and what we have kind of highlighted as roadblocks for third spaces. What are your roadblocks, or anything that we have not covered, or anything else that you are assuming for yourself that's a roadblock for your publications?
So in the chat, what did Kashmira raise in the role play as roadblocks to disseminating research? And yeah, also in the chat, tell us anything that you think we've missed out on, or just turn on your microphones and tell us. Yeah, Nikki, spot on. Thank you. Not having a PhD, not having time. Yep, good. Any others?
Can I add another one?
Yes.
I'm head of learning experience design, and I think it's a really, I'm going to put myself out on a limb here, but I think it's a really undervalued discipline in terms of the impact that it provides to curriculum design, or that we learning experience designers provide to curriculum design. And one of the challenges that I find is, I guess, breaking down those assumptions of the knowledge and the value that learning experience designers actually bring to the collaboration process with academics. And I think I've been in this role for 5 years, and I've only recently found an academic who has agreed to collaborate with me on a learning design strategy that I've proposed, and we're going to write a paper out of it. It takes a long time for my team to build trusting relationships with academics where we can actually implement innovative strategies, where we can actually, work on research projects and publish papers on findings with them. So I think, yeah, I'd love to hear any experiences or insights into perhaps similar experiences that others may have had around that.
I will echo Nikki's point, because I think sometimes I might have some really good research ideas because I can spot when I was supporting either a unit or a course, but then I realized that's probably, there's unit coordinators are almost like a gatekeeper, and then we do need like a research, I don't know, like a site or research target, and then but you pretty much you need their it's not like a direct approval, but you need their consensus to kind of make their cohort or the learning environment to become a research site. So I think that's probably what Nikki overlay a little bit of what she tried to say there. I agree with that. But Nikki, if I share my experience, sometimes I get lucky. I found the other duplicate one, it might happen, and sometimes I don't, but I just keep trying. Yeah.
So Nikki, when you said it takes time, why, like, how did you navigate through that time? Let's say if it took you 5 years, how did you move forward in your journey to get to a point where you are kind of proposed to be a author?
It's just really establishing trust. I mean, I haven't published anything. This is, and I'm not an academic. But yeah, look, it's really all about establishing trust. And, like what my team do, my team sit within a bigger team called product innovation. So we are always kind of striving to, define innovative approaches to enhance the student learning experience, to enhance engagement. And we employ evidence-based theory and pedagogy, but a lot of it's new, and so building trust with the academics takes time. If we want to insert kind of new approaches into their courses, which is understandable because, there's, you know, they want to ensure that there's a, you know, really impactful experience for the students, and you know what, you know, like if we're coming in with something new that, you know, is you know, there's evidence to support it, but it is, you know, like we're you know, trying something new with an assessment strategy at the moment, and this is an assessment strategy that's been around for 10 years, and you know, there's a lot of evidence to say that it's successful, but trying to get people to kind of get on board with it is proving quite challenging. So, but look, I'm up for it. You know, I get that. You know, I like a challenge, and it's, yeah, just a matter of, you know, having the evidence, building trust, building relationships. But that's probably one of the biggest hurdles that we come across. And, you know, in my experience, I say 5 years. I mean, it's not, it's probably taken less than that. I've been in this job for 5 years, but in terms of building the relationships, it's probably taken a couple of years. Yeah.
Fabulous. You're in the right place. This is exactly what we're talking about for this whole session. And I when Kashmira and I, and it was Kashmira who has led this session, but when we were throwing around ideas, I drew on a lot of my own experience as a learning designer before I became an academic. And, you know, I want to, I am not the stuffy old academic that I was pretending to be in the role play. You know, I'm very much on the side of respecting the contributions of third space professionals and academics. But everything that you said, you know, and I think also the role play resonated, you know, because they are not uncommon issues and problems, and so much of this is tied up to what we've already talked about in some of the other sessions about reclaiming the space and being clear about identity, and they're themes that we're going to touch on as we go through. I really wanted to make the session really practical and hands-on, and give you access to some resources that we've found useful in our careers. But I think underpinning it all is that notion of trust that you identified. Yeah, Andrea, we're going to talk about SOTL. We'll get to that. Nice. All right, over to you, Kashmira. Come on, let's do this.
Yeah. So what we are going to do in next rest of the time in next few slides is we are going to go through each of those roadblocks that we spoke about individually, and we will say, and we will talk about alternate ways of doing those things then, you know, so yeah, Keith?
I just like the slide. No, I should have put something on the sign, right? It's a bit blank. Okay.
Yeah. So the previous slide, I think that's really the catch about like understanding the roadblocks is the first step. So you know, I think it was Sandra's comment in that a limited understanding of what constitutes research, and that is exactly what we are going to talk about today. So if I'm a third space professional, do I publish? How do I publish? What do I publish? And what are low stake alternatives that we will be going through? So the first roadblocks is the time. Leon, is that the next slide?
Yeah.
Yeah. So yes, we don't have time, and also just to say, teaching focused or education focused academics also do not have the kind of like allocated time for research. So how do we deal with that?
Maybe, Kashmira, we should preface this by saying that, you know, we think that third space people should have allocated time for research. Okay. And you know, I think we need to say that as a starting point, and then realize that's a goal that we might be able to work towards, but people are interested in solutions now. What can we do now?
Yeah.
And these are three things that I've found helpful in this kind of space. And the first one is, you know, the time argument is completely valid. And it's more than just, you know, my workload is full. It's also often my workload is precarious. I'm on short-term contracts. I'm doing service work. I'm expected to do all this additional work in addition to what's in my job description. You know, the comment that Kashmira made in the play about fixing everyone else's digital problems. That is still very much an issue for learning designers or learning experience designers. But I think if we rethink about it less as, time itself, but as time as how we define traditional academic work, then that offers us some solutions. Okay, so what I mean by that is thinking of time as something extra, a paper to write, a grant, a project is something extra that we all have to do. And of course, there's never enough time to do that. So instead of doing that, start thinking about how you already do the research as part of your work. So examples of things that educational developers and learning designers and technology specialists and educational technologists, all of those broad group of people that do already things like co-designing curriculum, evaluations of learning initiatives, developing an innovative learning resource. Nikki, what you were saying about that assessment plan, if you've facilitated professional development, if you've taken on board student feedback or learning analytics and made iterative changes, all of those I would consider should be thought about as research. If not, then they're certainly research adjacent. And this is often formalized as a space of scholarship of teaching and learning. In some ways, I don't like the term scholarship of teaching and learning. I recognize its validity, but I often see it as separate, or I think it's often presented as something that's separate to research. You have research and that's wonderful. And if you can't do research, you do scholarship of teaching and learning. And I think that really devalues the work we do as educators, because I think scholarship of teaching and learning is really just educational research. Sure, it's a little bit narrower in focus, but that's okay. I don't think that's a problem. So, yeah, I'm using the term scholarship of teaching and learning under protest, and I realize you might disagree with me on that one, and that's absolutely fine. So my first point is think about research as what you already do, because you already do most of the things, maybe not all of them, but you would do some of them.
Yeah, so I give you a couple of examples. So last year we had a community mentoring program, and our mentee was a learning designer from Melbourne University, and he was, so when we spoke to him, what you are doing, he said, I'm creating student facing dashboard from like analytics. And so he creates graph and like write whatever that little script to display the progress and all of that. And it was fascinating work. And we encouraged him to write a concise paper, which happened to be his first concise paper in his career. A second example, I will let Kate Michelle, who is here, who is for our Learning Design SIG co-lead as well. What she told me once, that she is appointed as a e-portfolio, a senior learning designer for a particular e-portfolio. So when she focuses her research or the work on e-portfolio, she's doing her work as a part of the job. And so that's how you can be a little bit more strategic around, finding your space into your own workload, and then you can kind of do less work outside the work hours. So the next point, Kate has already put this.
Yeah, so
sorry,
kind of related to that, and this is, are you going to jump in, Kate?
Oh, sorry, I can if you want. And sorry, hopefully the audio is okay. Let me know. It's really hard. Like you kind of sometimes have to like get good at, accounting or being stealthy. It's like, oh, where do I draw the line, and what can I technically class as professional development or, projects? So it's like, if it's reading, it's tied to my job. But then I can also, I could count that as professional development. It may, and that would also inform research, which might not be part of my job, but I can do all of that kind of pre-work potentially under, while doing the publication bit in my own time, if that makes sense. So like carving it up in that way. But like, obviously that assumes that you've got time to do reading in your job, which is not always the case, especially because people are getting stretched. But yeah, and the same with like doing projects, where if you can align with somebody and do some of it as a project and document it as you go, that can be really useful. Because even if you don't turn it into, say, a conference presentation or a paper with, and sometimes that can be useful if you're working with someone as well. But even if you don't use it for those means, it might still go into like a CMALT portfolio or an HEA fellowship application or something along those lines. So where possible, like I try and when I'm when I'm actually thinking about it, try and document process or the progress on projects, so I can look back and go, oh yeah, that's how I did this thing.
Yeah. I've got some ideas that I might share about publications and how you can make, well, actually, maybe I'll do it now. So I'm currently working with a really experienced academic on a contract tender. And I know that's not what we're talking about, but I think it's got some insights that might be of use. And as part of this contract, we have to write regular reports about each phase of the research project. And so each report becomes what we call a non-traditional research output. And then this academic just rebrands them, tweaks them a little bit, and submits them as an academic article as well. So I'm thinking, as part of our work as third spaces, we often have to write a report or give a presentation or something like that. So maybe the jump between turning that report or that presentation into a publication is not as great as it might feel, especially if you've got the support of an academic. We'll get to that a little bit later on. Anyway, shall we move on, Kashmira?
Yes. Yeah. So the next one is Leanne, next slide is a budget. So we know that we don't have the budget most of the time to go to the conferences and go professional development or paid workshops and things like that. So we were thinking, next slide, please. We can have the alternative ways to do that as well. So every university has some professional development fund around like 1,500 or something every year. Now you can use it very strategically so that you can multiply that. So what I mean by that is that when at some stage when I was learning designer, I wanted to one time I used it for doing a diploma in project management course from Dave, just because that I was doing IT project management and I just thought that would be helpful, and it is a formal qualification that might help me in in my future. But other time I use it for going for like ASCII conference, where I do a lot of networking, and that some of the networking and collaboration kind of turn out into some sort of public publications. Keith?
Yeah, a really good example. I was doing a course, I developed a course called the Grad Cert Learning Design, and we offered each of the subjects as micro credentials, and I think the micro credentials cost about $1,200 each. And that's a lot of money for a course, especially when you've got to do a number of them to get a credential. And I had lots of people who were interested in learning design from the university come and say, Keith, surely there's a way to get a cheaper option. And I couldn't talk the university into allowing people from the university to do it for free, which would have been my preferred option. But we discovered, hidden away, that there was a professional development allowance that was available to all staff that was $2,000 per semester. And so no one was using this, but it was there. And so we just encouraged people to use that to pay for a couple of micro credentials. It worked out really, really well. So sometimes you've just got to do the digging and keep knocking on doors until somebody says yes. But often people think that dissemination's only about what happens at conferences and international conferences. Realistically, I think more dissemination actually takes place at a smaller scale. So at your own universities, learning and teaching conferences or showcase, those are really, really important. Or even more narrowly, just talking at your own universities' communities of practice. So every month we have a learning design meetup here at UTS, which is a great opportunity to share what you're doing, share new ideas. And if they're set up right, and these are led by Maze Fateh here at UTS, so they're really good. you get a good mix of academics and third space staff and professional staff there. So it's quite a broad audience, which I think is really useful. And then the fourth thing, do you want to jump in, Kashmira? Sorry.
No, that's fine.
Okay. The fourth thing is think about those groups outside the university. You know, so what we're doing here, right, is a great example of a thing. And I can guarantee you, if you you know, send an email or proverbially knock on our door and say, "Hey, Keith or Kashmira or Leanne or Kate, I want to do a session on this," we're not going to say no. Okay, we're always looking for new people to come and do things around that kind of stuff. So I'd invite you all to think about that. Some of the other organizations that I know, Herzar itself. Now, Herzar is quite expensive to join, but it does have a SODL special interest group. It's got a third space special interest group. It's got a first year experience special interest group, which might be interest. Ascolite's got the teleadvisors, and it's got us. And you know, we are completely open to everyone coming along to our sessions. I think the teleadvisors are as well. And then there's ISODL, the International Society for the Scholarship of Teaching and Learning. And then there's, you know, like smaller ones and online ones and those kinds of things as well. So they're worth checking out. Yeah, that's all I've got on that one.
Now, I also want to give a couple of examples. Say, for example, community of practices in Sydney University is, I think, open for all. So Sydney University does also a teaching and learning symposium, which is not like you can't go and present there, but you are allowed to just, attend. So you can see all of these sessions and, have connection and talk. So for example, last time when it was like a couple of weeks ago, they have the teaching and learning symposium, and some of the things I really clicked with me, and I contacted that academic and say, let's work together on X, Y, Z. And he said, yeah, let's work together on this. So these are the kind of things that you can like start working. Now, another thing, so they also have AI symposium, which is open to all university professionals and for free. So keep eye out for those, forums and community of practices from other universities, which is open for everyone to come in and join.
Kate, does Kate want to jump in and talk about PD vendor funds? I haven't heard of that one. I think that's a great idea.
Oh, there's not too much to it. Like I know that certainly if you're doing it, like sometimes if you're doing quite a bit of work using technologies, and you've got good relationships with vendors, they may want you to present at their conferences or like symposiums. Some vendors, like I know PebblePad, because I do mostly portfolio work, they've just announced a conference assist piece. So they will fund you to go to conferences if you're presenting about PebblePad. I don't think there's any stipulations around that you have to present a rosy view of that, but obviously you'd want to check with your uni around conflicts of interest and things like that. But yeah, certainly I know that those things are out there because, vendors love it when their stuff's getting shown around.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So
shall we do the next one?
yes.
So this is one of the big ones, and it came through in the little role play as well, is the invisible labor that is undertaken by so many people in third space roles, that's often ignored when it comes time to share out the credit. And I think that's really unfair. One of the things that I'm interested in is the role of learning designers, and I'm just speaking about them specifically as agents of change within universities. I think they are responsible for a lot of innovation, and they have a much broader vision across a university teaching and learning environment than a lot of other roles. But they're so rarely credited in publications, grant applications, even awards. Now, I know some universities are moving away from that with team awards and things like that, where they're recognizing the work that these people do. I don't think it's enough, right? So that feeling of invisibility, The first thing is it's not imagined. Okay, it is a genuine thing, and it is a structural thing. And I think it's a shame because we miss out on the kind of richness that comes from those collaborations. So my suggestions for how we get around that, and recognizing I am in an academic role now, Kashmira in the play, and Nikki, you said it's taken you about 5 years to find an academic that you feel you can work with. Um, I totally agree. Like if you are working with academics who are not interested in you as a professional who's got something to contribute to the research about learning and teaching, you've got to find other academics. If the doors are shut, find other doors, find windows. Stop pushing,
Yeah.
the boulder up a mountain, and instead look for other people that you can work with. Now, I think, and without getting into the politics of teaching focused or education focused academics, because it's a problematic space. I think there is a natural alliance between teaching focused academics and third space practitioners, because you're both short on time, you've got other responsibilities, but often both groups of people are very interested in publishing their research. And in the area of SODL, it's a really good space for people to work together. So that would be my first piece of advice there.
And I also think that like if you work on one particular project or unit and you work very intensely and then you are not recognized, or they won't give you credit, you feel very disappointed, and that is a genuine disappointment. But I think moving on is the key. And read I think third space related material or the papers that is kind of published, because that's when you see that, okay, what are the kind of like, who are the authors who is thinking about third space professionals, their identity and what they're doing in the area, and you can get in touch with them and say, we are doing this, how can you help us? Now, proactive assertive approach is very important. So sometimes, like there are like very well published and the people who gave theories and ideas. I give you an example how I mean, it might sound a bit stupid, but I even wrote one time, I was writing a module around teaching and learning, and I just thought I was writing about John Biggs, and I thought like, what about John Biggs come and talk about his own, constructive alignment and all that. So regardless to whether he will accept or not, I wrote him an email and said, would you mind, recording a short video for us and on a Zoom and something? And he wrote back to me and said, no, look, I'm old and I don't do it anymore, but at least I tried, So, but if you don't try at all, then there's nothing going to come. So having that kind of like go to the root and genuine, that's very, very important I think, in my opinion. Some of the academics are really, really good. So it happened to me when I was doing a research assistant job, only data analysis. And one day I got a big parcel of, preprint of something. And I just thought like, why is it coming to me? And I just saw that I was fourth author in that, which I didn't even tell them that you should put myself onto, authorship. But some people are very kind, but like, don't hang on to somebody does not give you credit and just move on. Kate, you wanted to talk about like all the ePortfolio and EduCourse. I think the next slide we will be talking about that, where you can add your ideas into. So the next one is.
So we've talked about this idea of what is research, and how the work that third spaces do is often research adjacent, and who you might be doing it with. But sometimes that final roadblock is, I've done something, I'm not sure where or who or how to talk about it. And this is where we get really, really practical, because Kashmira and I put our heads together and we came up with a whole bunch of places and sources. And a lot of them are your non-traditional. I mean, if you want to go and publish in a Q1 journal, go for it, right? But that's a big step up, and some people feel like they need other sources, and I personally would encourage you to publish really widely, as well as academically. Yeah, so just some examples. Leanne, can we just jump to the next slide, because I'm just going to go straight to the examples. So here are some of what I call trade journals. So these are not specifically academic. So EDUCAUSE, which is run by the same people that do the Horizon report now, they often publish EDUCAUSE Review, which often has think pieces and opinion pieces, descriptions of cases that have done. They're international. They're very US centric, but they are international. And they will publish good articles. So they're good. Training and development, they've got branches all over Australia. So that's kind of the the professional learning design or instructional design. Yeah, that's it there, AITD. So they're kind of like I see them as the professional arm of Ascalite, or the professional version of Ascalite. Yeah, then there's a couple of other ones. E-learning industry does some really good stuff. Campus Morning Mail. I know a few educational technologists get published in Campus Morning Mail. I thought it was still around. Or has it changed its name or something? No, it's stopped entirely. All right, so scratch that one off the list. And I did find one in Future Campus. Yeah, I did find one in New Zealand, Teachers Matters. But that was more focused on teachers. I mean, if you are doing stuff that's generally educational applicable, there's a whole bunch of ones that are suitable for education, like Education HQ, which is good. And people are putting their own ones in the chat as well. Nice, great, thank you. Yeah, I've never had much luck with the conversation. Your mileage might vary, but I find them really unhelpful when it comes to education related things. Yeah. So those are some trade publications. You can see some of them are peer reviewed, most of them are not. So that's one less hurdle to clear. And they're often interested in peers. An even smaller step back is looking at how your institution publishes information as well. So here at UTS, we've got the LX Lab blog, which publishes pieces by learning designers or academics or anyone in that space. And again, it's right 400 words, and I actually like it because you often get linked up with somebody who'll help you edit the work and frame it. I mean, in the best cases, I've done an interview and it's turned into an article with my name on it, which is nice. And then we've got some other examples from other institutions. Kashmira quite rightly said, yeah, Keith, but if you go to UTS, the Deakin Teaching and Learning blog isn't going to let you publish there. And you're right, they're not, of course. But if at your institution, you should be able to find your own one. And if not, ask why not. There should be one of these, right?
Start one, at least.
Yeah, start one. Yeah.
And like at Western Sydney University, when I was there, there was nothing where you can publish anything. So I started my own newsletter, which goes into my faculty, and I write like a fixed section and write a little bit about all of that. Like University of New England has one as well, my university. But I also, I am aware that some of the university, when you write on the university blog, you can't put your name onto it.
Yeah, that's not right.
Yeah, that's not right, but that's the practice. Kate might want to add something into it as well. But if that's the case, then you have to find something else where you can put your name on too, honestly. And I'm reading in chat, there are lots of different things that a lot of people are hopping on to Substack nowadays as well. And they have like a lot of subscriptions as well.
I think we get to that one. That's a little bit later on, but yes, thank you, Kashmira. The other thing is there are some journals that are specifically focused on scholarship of teaching and learning. And I've found these journals, while still rigorous, are generally easier to get published in. A big shout out to the Pacific Journal of Technology Enhanced Learning. I think that's Tom Cochrane's journal. He does a lot of work with that. And that does some good stuff. And also the Teaching and Learning Inquiry. That's the Journal of the International Society for the Scholarship of Teaching and Learning. Journal of University Teaching and Learning Practice, I've published in there. They've done some good case study kind of work. Yeah, so there's lots of journals that are perhaps not Q1, but because of the fact they're not Q1, they don't boast about the fact they reject 95% of all the articles. They're more interested in case study practitioners. And it's about starting the journey. You know, we're not saying that you'll always publish in those ones, but we reckon it's a good place to start. Yeah. Yeah, okay. Kate sharing some ideas. All right, and now Kashmira, it's back to you to talk about Substack and that kind of stuff.
Sorry, we spoke about most of the things, but a tell-all blog that already has been in the chat that Kate put in. One of the things that I have seen some people do, for example, the Colt is running a whole MOOC around a university teaching and learning, and they invite people to come in and write modules, and you can put yourself as an author and publish there. But the unit coordinator, that Agnes, she has her own website and she writes blogs of her own, and then link those blogs to her LinkedIn posts. So then a lot of people see it, read it if they are interested, and it doesn't have to be any kind of like, nobody is moderating it, what you write, and interested people watch it. And there are statistics that you can say that, okay, 500 people have visited my blog, and you can show the impact as well. The next one.
That's actually a nice segue to our next point, which is, and I've put these in capitals deliberately, not because I'm shouting at you, but because it's something that I feel really strongly about. And it's that sometimes publishing or disseminating in alternative locations is better for you and for your career and for your standing and for the profession than publishing in very narrow journals. So Kashmira's example about, blog posts that get 500 reads, that's great, right? I know academics that would be over the moon if they had 50 people who read their papers, right? And it's just so much more accessible to so much more of a wider audience. The way I like to think about this, and I say this to early career researchers sometimes, impact is bigger than impact factor. So you've got to think beyond just, your site score or your impact factor. And the great thing about blogs or ResearchGate, which Kashmira is going to talk about, or these trade journals, is often, they go beyond the paywall. Some of the stuff that you do when you talk about your work at a teaching and learning forum might have a huge institutional impact, and other things might go beyond your institution. Most academic journal articles would love to have that kind of level of impact. The other thing is, I know there's so much pressure. I'll just go back, Leanne, for a sec. There's so much pressure amongst academics to have, translationable research. Turn your very complex engagement with Foucault into something that actually means something in the classroom or wherever you're doing it. The beauty of the work that learning designers and other third spaces do is it's all already translated. It's eminently practical. And I think that's really, really important. It's turning theory into things that are already actionable and scalable. And I think that's the whole point of educational research, really. And finally, just touching on that, you often reach not just a bigger audience, but a wider audience as well. Some of my blog posts have led to me being invited to do keynote presentations and things like that. That doesn't happen too often with my papers. So worth thinking about the width of the audience as well as the size of the audience. Yeah.
Okay, so I recently learned about this, so I just thought I'll share with you you all about how ResearchGate can be utilized in disseminating, like it's in informal way. So Leanne, may I please share my screen? So this is my ResearchGate profile. Now, I was alerted very recently that because I was ignoring it. Most of the papers and everything goes into my, like Google and all that. But I'm part of Women in Academic Leadership, which is ASCII's mentoring program. And my mentor told me that I should be doing this. And so I have, and even for the sake of today's, presentation, I uploaded some of my, publications here. But what I want to mention here is this. So in your ResearchGate profile, you can show your impact. So it automatically gives a lot of statistics. So for example, what is my research interest score? How many reads that I have, my publications, how many people cited, and all of that. Also comparison to like what first date of publication, how quickly it's been read, and all that. All this like a nuanced data that if you want, you can also mention about your own interest in your profile, that what you are interested in, what you are standing up for, so people can find you, because many people can find you easily here. We have the research listing, so I have all of this. Now, what I want you to see here is see this like same title but two papers here. So when this was when I submitted that, I didn't know when it is going to be published, because knowing that publisher is, so I, ResearchGate allows you to do the preprint, upload the preprint. So I have uploaded the preprint, and here is what. So I uploaded my preprint in May 2025, and this is like June and July. In 2 months' time, I have 103 reads. Okay. So which is good. Now when I'm going back here, and when it is published, I have just put the published version as well. And now, of course, this I have uploaded yesterday, so there is no read or anything, no statistics around that. But that is one thing that you can do. Now, what also that means is that when you do the preprint, you also have your document indexing that ResearchGate generates. So you can do that as well. Another example that I want to give you is this example. So this is a report that I wrote for COLT, Academic Development Academic Development Day. So I did a workshop, and when we do the group work and people write on the butcher papers and all of that, we collected all of that and produced a report. Now that report is neither research, nothing. It is just a report of what happened, and there are some useful information around academic developers. I have put that up in here, and now it is it is findable. People can, and this one I just uploaded here like yesterday only, so it won't have any statistics. But what I'm trying to say is that you can have those available through your, it doesn't have to be a research. If you write anything or a synthesis, ideas, anything, you can put it in here and people can access it, and you can generate statistics around it. When I was uploading this, and I did not put document in DOI in this one, ResearchGate asked me if I want to produce or want ResearchGate to create a DOI. And I said no, but otherwise I would have the DOI for this one as well. So you can use that in that way as well. So use it as a preprint platform or any other reports. I was looking at what are the kind of things that people upload in ResearchGate, and I saw that there are user manuals or best practice guides. Somebody said, okay, how best use PowerPoint while you are screen recording, and that kind of, they all are here. And it has like a really like one of the guide that I saw has 17,000 downloads, and across in statistics you can also see the number of like country people involved in like different countries. So you can see that like your impact is across like geographically where it is. So you can do that as well in through the ResearchGate as well. I think we are kind of like at the end of our presentation. Keith, you want to add anything? Or?
No, I think you've done well.
Look, this has been fantastic, and thank you so much to Kashmira and Keith and everyone here, and Kate as well. Everyone here has been so engaging and so active in our session, and we don't all know everything here resonates with all of us as well. And just brilliant discussion and brilliant presentation. The practical tips that all of us can get on and look at implementing. Now I know we've only got a couple minutes left. I do want to just reiterate, we do have 2 more sessions. We have on the 12th of September, we do have our continuation of the next dissemination channel. We will be looking at peer review journals. So we do have a social professor, Henk, coming to us. So one of the editors of the AJET journal coming. But I do also want to announce, if I may, we're also coming out, and please do watch out for this announcement coming soon, like within the next week or so. We're also a big supporter, as we all know, about giving opportunities for our learning designers, our third space colleagues, around contributing to writing about their work. So we will be announcing shortly next week expressions of interest for contributions into an open educational resource document or collaborative document that we want to co-create within our community. The focus will be on learning design and principles. We are looking at the first iteration and launch by the end of this year at the ASCII conference. So please do watch out for this space, and we will be communicating about that and putting that into our ASCII newsletter shortly as well. But on that note, thank you so much. And if you have any questions whatsoever between Kashmira, Kate and I, and I'm sure everyone here as well, please do feel free to reach out across all of this. I'm an academic teaching folk. I've been in the last 25 years, many different roles, as you all know, but we're here to support each other and uplift our community around this. But thank you so much for your time today and spending your lunchtime hour with us. Thank you.
Thank you. See you.
Thanks, folks. See you later.